Norman O'Brown, yeah, she gave me a copy of that book, and really like that became kind of the conceptual basis of the album, and a lot of the lyrics are sort of like inspired by that, and song titles, and it's it was a big thing for me, and really kind of saved my life in a way, maybe hopefully in a way that I can explain here. So let me read this to you real quick, and then I'm going to read a few poems, and then I'll play some songs. So the essay is just called I Advance Wearing a Mask. You weren't supposed to hear that. These mics are sensitive. I really like to get into it. I like to lean into it. I like to put my lips right on the mic. So Norman O'Brown protected me against abuse from Freudian orthodoxy. My relationship with analysis had always been deeply layered. My grandfather was a teaching Freudian analyst. My mother is a paranoid schizophrenic who's been deeply suspicious of psychiatry like her whole adult life. And then there was me, and I was struggling to really find myself during a psychotic episode in my early 20s. So after years in analysis, I decided that I had been mistreated by the very system that I turned to for salvation. I suspected psychiatry was more interested in saving itself than saving me. And Norman O'Brown, from here on I'll refer to him as Nobby, which is what his friends called him. It's not funny. But along with the Buddhists and the Surrealists, freed me from pathology and enabled me to carve my mask. While I have no interest in Freud the clinician, I'm still interested in Freud the philosopher. Through Nobby's readings of Freud in particular, I found hope for a complex and dynamic sovereignty. For Nobby, there are two poles of personality. On the one hand, there's his famous aphorism, "I am what is mine," which kind of became the hook of one of these songs, which I'll play tonight. So here the boundaries are clearly marked. The ego, the oceanic ego, which includes everything, has sort of morphed into private property and good fences. Or in the words of Yeats's Crazy Jane, which he quotes a lot throughout the book, nothing can be soul or whole that has not been rent. To be is to be separate, and to be separate is to long to be whole again. And then on the other hand, there's the equation love equals dialectics. From Shakespeare's The Phoenix and the Turtle, quote, "Two distincts, division none, number there in love was slain." So here, dialectics overcome dualism. Nobby knows the malleability of the self. Quote, "Larva means mask or ghost," or larvatus means masked, a personality. Larvatus per deo, which is the Latin for I advance wearing a mask. And larva, of course, also means metamorphosis. So this is really the meaning of I advance wearing a mask, not only that I am ineffable even to myself, but also that I metamorphose until I die. And personhood is really never-ending work. Personhood is also collectively authored by culture, by mythology, and by ancestry. Quote, "The boundary separating actor and spectator is a false one, concealing the deeper reality of the collective authorship," end quote. I take this to mean less property and more copying, and less genius and more genius. So if we're to overcome dualism, then we need more love, and in modern life, that really just means more sublimation. Our survival depends as much on our separation as it does on our unity. This is what Nobby got wrong about schizophrenia. While there is some beauty in the boundless metaphors, quote, "Schizophrenics suffer from the truth," end quote, paranoia is still mostly narcissism. So everything is symbolic, but those symbols are not for any one person, they're for all of us. So I would say we are what is ours. So that's that. And then, so I'm actually going to read a few poems. So as I alluded to there, I have nothing to hide. My mother is a very sick woman, and it's been a very trying thing in my life. she's not well, and she won't take care of herself, and there's really nothing I can do about it at this point. So I'm kind of dealing with that ambiguous loss of a person who is, basically died but is still there, but I can't really access her. And it's a very, it's a long process, it's a long trial. But one thing that helped me was that I get thousands of emails from her. We don't really keep in touch, but she emails me a lot. And to have some kind of mastery over the situation, I made some poems just from her emails as source material. I sort of did some cut up and just sort of, what like Rick Rubin credits himself on Kanye's Yeezus as a reducer, not a producer. So I kind of reduced the emails, to some poems. So I'm going to read a few of them and then I'll play. So this one is called Aromatics by Clinique, or Perfume Metaphor. Interesting. I just met a woman who smelled lovely, and I asked her what kind of perfume she wore. She said, Aromatics by Clinique. I never heard of it, but looked it up and saw a definition of the word aromatics from chemistry. It said, more stability despite what is going on. And that, I think, is what you have been telling me. So my new direction is for aromatics, both in perfume and in science. At the airport. I was at the airport and saw fire trucks all around Penn and on 76 with fire truck crashing into the white car. Symbols for me. And I saw another wedding rehearsal in the most desolate and dreary airport tunnel. Ridiculous. Clearly for me. Why? Just because I'm not willing to say there is no truth to my claims? I cannot do that. You wouldn't ask a drowning person to take off a life preserver. I hope this, composed with more time and thought than the last hurried message, puts out the fires and the fire trucks and crashes the wedding rehearsals in ridiculous places and the fly swatters that suddenly came out at home. Oh fuck. Not even hungry. Why here? Talked to cop, and then he walked away. What say? Because you all tell me you 302 me. Not sure how to tell strange cops I need them, but we'll try again after dinner, though I am stuffed. Came only because thought my way to you. I feel sick. Help me. Want you to know how much you mean to me. 5 exclamation points. And those are all the subjects of the emails. Jake, I heard your piano play last night and still was not able to get to you. And I saw a truck beeping and did not run fast enough. Someone snuffling like I said all wrong things. Got no bill for tonight's stay, and free is always costly. Music lovers request to hear the music tonight. For Jay, and a way to find the source of it, and chance for duets with backup orchestra, so to speak. Okay, so back-turned and already with food when? Someone points to musicians. Why must you test me always? What is wrong with my son, and I deserve this? Do not understand why help must come wearing particular stripes. I will not tell you again my plans, since that is how you know to send plants and erroneous donut holes. Maybe I will hear the music play anyway. Please do not leave without me. I go up, I go down, I talk to Abu. I cannot find you, but I try. Please do not send me messages regarding noises off or tempests. I want music. I want rose gardens. Actually, I want you any way you are feeling. And this is the last one I'll read. This is a somewhat longer one. called forward, important correction to draft the document sent earlier. Please destroy other draft. Despite the words of Shakespeare, a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. The power of language in a name is not meaningless. One name does not suffice for another. A word not only identifies, but implies and states, or even stakes ground or territory. It judges and gives weight and reflection to phases of development. Certainly, questions of chicken and egg emerge. To what extent do changes in the political environment elicit changes in the language, and to what extent does language help determine different futures of actual conditions of those named? In my hometown, the English House for the Incurables made me cringe. As a child, I would turn aside from both the residence and the sign. My young mind, had trouble grasping the grave-like, dead-end life those words prescribed. The new name is Inglis, ability and independence redefined. You can imagine that inside the doors, programming and interactions with the residents mirror a hope and instruction in how to cope, as opposed to how to wait to die. The world might be deaf to the sounds of words, but to me, attention to them, including contexts, are something which I choose to rail against, to upbraid, to fight, to be heard, not to be silenced around emotional abuse. The diagnosis of delusional disorder is so damning because it takes your tongue away, your right to think, to have autonomy. If you are delusional, it is carte blanche to your abusers. What better way could a sexual abuser hide than by calling the abuser delusional? See addendum for Orwell-inspired piece on how sexual abusers use government systems to hide in plain sight. One author argues that the diagnoses listed in the major psychiatric diagnostic manuals have not yet been linked with any sort of physical test or other biological marker other than dementia. And so, unlike the rest of medicine, psychiatric diagnoses do not have pathophysiological correlates, and no independent data is available to the diagnostician to support their subjective assessment of diagnosis. Quoting Saj, he continues, "The problem with psychiatric diagnoses is not that they are meaningless, but that they may be, and often are, swung as semantic blackjacks, cracking the subject's dignity and respectability, and destroying him as effectively as cracking his skull. The difference is that the man who wields a blackjack is recognized by everyone as a thug, but the one who wields a psychiatric diagnosis is not." My pushing the truth was a threat to those around me, my doctor and my ex-husband, since they banded around the diagnosis. Admitting their error was more threatening than hurling it at me and trying to make it stick again. History can be a death sentence. Martha Mitchell was forced by Nixon to a hospital, drugged and diagnosed delusional because she had called the press about Watergate. She was more in touch with the truth than any of the other players, yet that label stuck with her a long time. Using literature as a parallel to both Martha Mitchell and to me, there is a set of trends that run roughly from earlier periods of literature where there is one omniscient narrator commenting on the hero or heroine, and all lines up from that one perspective or theme, forwarded by details that support that view. In a fairly neat package, the author stands behind his narrator in early literary history, not unlike the way a psychiatrist stands to omnisciently comment on his patient. In a more modern context, each chapter is written from the point of view of another character, so the all-knowing point of view is lost, but nonetheless has gained that more nuanced, more complicating the narrative. There are more complications in time sequence. In contrast to the earlier reliance on chronology, modern books bow to the idea that things are never neat and clean in time. Things occur contemporaneously. Things occur so that one acts now on a memory of the past, though long buried. Or one acts on a wish or a dream. Or one acts in defiance or submission to another's thoughts or dreams. Rashomon style, the same events told from different perspectives can feel like different stories altogether. And wouldn't that give psychiatry something to think about? Thanks. So. Let's see if this thing's making noise. How's that Vox cable doing, Jesse?
It's the same.
Same.
Maybe I'm yeah, same.
Okay. Fascinating. I'm sorry. Keegan. My man. My man, my man. I feel like moving. I'm gonna amble around a little bit. Getting fucking morose in here. I'm sorry you didn't know. I thought you had ripped off dead. I was a guy blind to my own suffocation. I did not consider the saturation more than music. Your gifts to me have grown like plants. You said one day I would the fall into division. Separation is secrecy. Hiding from one another, we're hiding from one another, we're hiding from one another, we're hiding from one another, but ownership is hiding. And so we hide in secret the plague of darkness. What we hide, we fear to lose. What we hide. Astrolaber Sexton! I am what is mine, I am what is mine, I am what is mine, I am what is mine. Nature is a psycho. Her endless twisted drum roll in my divided limit. I know what I am, I know what I am, I know what I am, you know what you are. You are what is yours, what is yours, I am what is mine. Astrolaber Sexton! I am what is mine, I know